fact. It is harder to stay married now in 2019 than it ever was in the past. That's a fact. People love to say, Nick, do your research. No, I refuse to do my research because I already know it's a fact. I already know that it's harder to stay married in 2019 than it was in the 80s, than it was in the 50s, than it was in the 20s. It's common sense. I don't need to do research to know that. I mean, off the top of my head, I can tell you why people aren't staying married. There's several things that go into it. It's a complex issue. The first thing that comes to mind is ultimately men and women do not need marriage the same way they did in the 1940s. Even just from a financial perspective, women don't financially need men the way they did in the 1940s. Also, there was this concept of identity and passing on your family name. So for men, there was this bragging rights of having a family, having all these kids and naming them after you and helping them. And all the boys would help on the farm and run the farm. And then the girls would wash all the clothes. Yeah, that's very old fashioned, very outdated. But it used, for much of the history of the world, marriage needed to happen. And so by default, you weren't going to get divorced because you needed each other too much. And now we're financially independent enough where we don't need those things. People have less kids, and that alone, we're not, most of us aren't on farms anymore, So there's less of a need to have to be married. So if you don't have to, if it's not out of necessity, if it's truly just out of love and out of your choice and unconditional love, that's a whole lot harder than ultimately kind of being forced into being married because you have to survive. But on top of that, then in the modern day of 2019, there's so many distractions though, there's so many distractions. So it's so easy, demonstrate. It's so easy for a married couple to be at their house and one of them, like, confirm my identity, prove I'm cool, pretty awesome, click. And they're so busy seeking confirmation from the rest of the world that they're not engaging in conversations with their actual spouse who's in the room. And I'm sure that can work both ways. There's even if that wasn't it, things like Netflix. Things like Netflix. Netflix is too good. It makes it too easy to sit down and be lazy and watch 6 seasons of a show over the course of 2 weeks than to actually have conversations. There's this false sense of, oh, this is us spending time together. No, it's not. Netflix is too good. Those are the two things immediately that just come to mind. Absolutely, it's harder to be married. Now, I will say, though, is this just doom and gloom? Am I trying to recruit you to become a MGTOW? No. You have to look at the exceptions to the rule. You have to look at people who are still married, been almost 11 years now. What is it about my wife and I that's different? You should always look at the people who are doing things right and model after them instead of modeling yourself off after society and feeding into that fear and anxiety that society wants to teach you when they say half of marriages end in divorce. Oh, okay, true, but half of them don't. And out of that half that don't, there are also many who are happy with the decision that they made, as I am. So ultimately, how is it that some people stay married and others don't? I would say ultimately, it's emotional intelligence. It's a matter of understanding that your emotions are under your own control. And if you leave it to the other person to emotionally control you, you're going to be miserable. You have to be able to know, hey, yes, I'm married to this person, but it's my own identity too. And I know who I am and I know what I want, etc. And so therefore I do not have to be offended or insulted by anything they do or don't do that I need them to do or not to do. And the other person has to be that way too. So in an age of all these distractions, you read books, you have conversations, you become your own self-prescribed psychiatrist to get you through this. And therefore, if you're willing to sacrifice stupid cell phones and stupid Netflix and stupid whatever dumb distractions there are, and you're forced to actually spend time getting to know that person that maybe you feel like you know too well after all these years. But when you still realize, hey, we're both changing, we're both growing, and if we don't evolve in the same direction, then we're going to grow apart. It's something you constantly work on. It's about emotional intelligence. But I think a lot of people would choose to be distracted over that. And especially when they realize, wait a minute, I don't really have to be married. It's not necessary to my survival to stay married. I don't have to. So, yeah, I agree. It's never been more difficult to stay married. But there is a method. There are reasons why people are not getting divorced. It takes a lot more effort than it used to. What a strange time to be alive. Your comments belong right here.